A couple months back, I did a video where I just straight up asked you guys what recipes you want to see me test on the channel. I did a post on my Instagram and took suggestions right from there. And that was really fun. You guys seemed to enjoy it. It was also the last video that got views on the channel. So here we are again today to do more of the same. The other day I posted this on my story and asked you guys for some more suggestions. If you don't already follow me and you want to catch the next one, my @ is right here. And obviously all of today's menu is going to be curated directly from your suggestions once again, so let's get right into this one. Okay, let's see what we've got here. I see Midwest salads. I think the one I did in that last video is enough for this entire year. Strawberry cake, pickle pizza. Just pickles on a pizza. No. Butter mochi. That could be a good one. It's always looked good whenever I've seen it on my feed. There's nothing overtly gross about it, and there's plenty of examples to go off of, so let's give it a shot. I grabbed some whole milk, half and half, and heavy cream, some Mochiko rice flour and sugar, butter, vanilla extract, baking powder, a couple of eggs, and some kosher salt. I'm gonna test the recipe that Emmy Made used for her video, I think 10 or 11 months back. And that was from a website called The Kitchen, and Alana, who writes those recipes. And like I said, every time I've come across this on TikTok or YouTube, it looks so good. It just looks like the most perfectly textured, buttery, kind of savory, sweet mochi. Maybe if a blondie was chewy. I don't know. That might be a bad comparison. I whipped up the wet ingredients, I melted down a stick of butter, one by one, incorporated them into my dry, and then got to the very end. If you're unfamiliar, this recipe is very coconut forward usually. They use an entire can of coconut milk in the actual filling, and then even shredded coconut across the top. And because if I did that, I'd be 6 feet underground by the end of tonight. I had to come up with a substitution, and because based on what I've read, coconut milk has a fat content somewhere between half and half and heavy cream. I'm gonna use a little bit of each and see if we get somewhat of a good outcome. If nothing else, this will be a good test to see if this is a viable food for my fellow coconut allergists to eat out there. I baked this for about 65 minutes in a 350-degree oven. It seemed to set up really nice. It got a beautiful, even golden color. So let's give this a taste and kick this one off with a buttery bang. Sorry. If I didn't know any better, I would assume this was some kind of like solidified pastry cream or like a custard, which I guess that's kind of what it is. It's a lot of dairy, an egg, some butter, and then just like a setting agent. This is really good. I also love the smell of it. It smells like a buttery sugar cookie. It's very chewy, so much so that it takes you off guard a little bit at first. But it does lean a little greasy feeling. I assume that's from the melted butter. I kind of wish there was a way to like emulsify that butter into the mixture rather than just dumping a stick of melted butter in there. That's probably why we're ending up with like greasy fingers. It also really needs the contrast of that crispy edge, at least for me. I feel like if I was just eating mouthfuls of just the middle, it might get a little old after a while. But as advertised, it is buttery and it's mochi, so I'm glad I tried this out. Thank you for the suggestion. Next up, I want something different. I want something I maybe have never heard of before. I think I mentioned that in the last video. Google search Koch sisters. It's very difficult, but very good. Well, I know about the Koch brothers and... but I can't leave that in. A traditional South African sticky donut treat. And they look really good, so let's give them a shot. I grabbed some whole milk and cake flour, kosher salt and granulated sugar, cinnamon sticks, butter, baking powder and an egg, a vanilla bean and lemon, fresh ginger, and plenty of water. What I gather from the little bit I've read and the couple of videos I've watched is that this is just a braided donut, maybe a little smaller than what the average American mind thinks of when they think of a donut. But most of the magic here lies in the sticky glaze that they get dipped in. It's kind of like a simple syrup with water and sugar. Allow that to dissolve with plenty of fresh ginger, the cinnamon stick, and then after a couple minutes of bubbling away, you finish it with a good squeeze of fresh lemon juice. And then you allow that mix to cool in the fridge or at room temperature while you whip up your donut dough. And while I whip up this donut dough and then roll it out, chop it up, and braid our little donuts, let me go off on a tangent quick. If I were to make shortened versions of these videos for a YouTube short or a TikTok, if that doesn't get banned, is that something you guys would be interested in? And if so, would that kind of discourage you from watching these long form videos? I've been going back and forth for what feels like years now. Everybody is in my ear telling me you have to get into the short videos in order to sustain life in today's internet ecosystem. To put it bluntly, and to almost peel back the curtain a bit, I haven't done them because I just despise them. They're so impersonable. They're not fun to make or edit, at least to me. But more and more, they just feel inevitable. So if you have a strong feeling to short form videos, one way or the other, please let me know down in the comments. It is greatly appreciated. But once I got my cute little braided Cook Sister donuts all fried up in 350-degree oil, I dipped them right down in my simple syrup solution. They were looking absolutely phenomenal. They looked beautifully golden, they had a nice shine, they smelled amazing. Let's give them a shot. What a pretty snack. Like, I absolutely love the way these look. Well, these are amazing, probably to nobody's surprise. I love the texture, it's the perfect amount of airiness. There's not much chew at all, which kind of shocks me based on how much we worked that dough. It's very delicate. And another thing that surprises me is how much all the spices come through in this glaze, especially the ginger. I have to imagine that you'd have to eat these pretty fast. They probably get very soggy quickly, but just 15 minutes or so after cooking and dipping, they are really delicious. It's so good. Some of these things are just so lovely, and I would definitely consider them on my YouTube channel. Something oatmeal, Kunefa? I've definitely heard of that one before, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, for sure. It is this incredibly, like, mesmerizing looking, cheesy Middle Eastern dessert. If you've ever gotten viral foods on your TikTok or Instagram feed, I'm sure you've come across this once, and I think we should try it out today. And to make it, I started by grabbing some cheese of two different kinds, both low moisture and fresh mozzarella. You may be asking why I didn't do my standard ingredient shot. And that's because, as I sat down to record this voiceover, I realized apparently I'm asleep at the wheel now and completely forgot to do it. That never happens. That's what I start every single recipe I've ever done with, so sorry. But I'll make sure to thoroughly walk you through each and every step to make sure I cover everything else. I shredded up about 200 grams each of the low moisture and fresh mozzarellas, and then set that to the side and allow that fresh stuff to drain a bit. And then I attempted to slice up this frozen shredded pastry dough. You can find this at most Middle Eastern grocery stores. It almost always comes frozen. And it's essentially like fine threads of phyllo dough. It almost reminds me of like bird's nests, if you made little rounds of it and got it all brown. That's not what we're going for today, so I chopped it up in about half-inch long pieces. I melted about 100 grams of ghee, or clarified butter, in the microwave, and then combined those two. Bake it in a 400-degree Fahrenheit oven until it gets nicely golden across the top, absolutely loading in our cheese and then popping it back in the oven to allow that stuff to melt. And then in the process, whipping up another simple syrup solution. What are the chances? With equal portions of water, sugar, a splash of orange blossom water, and then a little squeeze of lemon juice. This thing's gotta have one of the greatest reveals too. If you make it properly, you can flip it out onto a greased plate and you get this beautifully golden, perfectly circular dessert. At which point you drizzle on as much or as little of that simple syrup as you'd like. Don't forget, this is a dessert after all. And then exactly like the countless viral videos of this, I used my spatula to chop myself a square. All in all, I realize this isn't too challenging. It's melted cheese and some browned up pastry, but I'm allowed to feel a little bit proud of myself for nailing it on the first shot. First of all, I don't know who wouldn't want an excuse to have a mouthful of melted cheese, mozzarella, or really any kind. And that sweetness from the syrup is such an interesting and really good combination. Because at first, you wouldn't think that crunchy, sweetened cheese would be good, but the combination's amazing. And if you think about it, we combine these textures and flavors all the time. You've got your melted cheese. Instead of breadcrumbs, you've got strands of crispy pastry. Instead of a sweet barbecue or honey mustard dipping sauce for your mozzarella stick, it's a simple syrup with some orange blossom. Like, these aren't earth-shatteringly new concepts, but this is a damn good application of it, and I'm kind of pissed that I wasn't introduced sooner.
With the M without the AD. Flipping burgers and my money super lazy. Try and make a meal tonight, they ain't paying me. Try and supersize my life with my A-team. Yeah, our style wasn't wavy, but we had a vision. We could make it.